Tragedies do happen, but so do miracles. Have I got a story for you? Stay tuned. Hi, and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. As some of you may have noticed, not that many people are looking for me, but I did not do any videos last week. I normally upload a video every Tuesday and every Friday, and I was not able to do it. I'm filming this on Saturday evening, and I have no idea when it'll go out. But anyhow, I'm off my regular schedule for a little while. So I just believe in cutting to the chase and not dragging things out. So what happened was my brother-in-law, Ken, who I've talked about many times on my channel, he was married to my sister, Kathy, for 56 years, and she died last July. And so he lives here right on our street, 5 houses down. Well, last October, he had a cardiac arrest, and he was in a hospital in Pennsylvania on life support for 5 days and in the hospital for 10 days. Unfortunately, he has had a tragic accident. He was in his golf cart at the stop sign about a block from his house. And right in front of that stop sign is like a main road in our community. When I say main road, it's 4-lane, but the speed limit's only 35. That street, that main road, also has a stop sign. Unfortunately, a very elderly man went through the stop sign when Ken was pulling out, and Ken was hit by a car while he was in his golf cart. The impact was severe. It threw him out of the golf cart, through the windshield, and he went flying and landed on the concrete. The state police came, as well as our community police, and they called 911, and they helicoptered him to Savannah Memorial Hospital in Georgia. We don't have a trauma center right here in the Hilton Head area. So you either have to go to Charleston, which is an hour and 45 minutes away, or to Savannah, which is about 45 or 50 minutes away, where the hospital's located. So he was taken into the emergency room. Of course, Dave and I and our grandson Tristan went to Savannah to the hospital, and he was in bad shape. His head was bleeding. Of course, he hit his head, and also he has a brain bleed because of the head injury. In addition to that, he fractured his shoulder, I think the right shoulder, and I guess the way he landed, it was on his right side. He broke 9 ribs. Oh, I can't imagine the pain of that. You know, we have 12 ribs on each side, and he broke 9 out of 12. And there was internal bleeding, and he was cut up, and just so many things. So he went to the trauma ICU ward, and that was the first night. And later on that night, around, I don't know, a little after 10, after we got home, they called and said he was declining quickly. So they had to put him on a ventilator, and then they discovered he was losing so much blood that they had to find out why and where it was coming from. They believed it was his chest cavity because of all the broken ribs, that something happened, and sure enough, it did. It happened to his lung. So they called back a little after midnight and said they were taking him in for emergency surgery, and they would have to open up his chest to get all that blood out. And what they did was cut him from right under here and then around to about the middle of the back. And they said blood just poured out of him. Of course, they had to give him a lot of blood product because of that. When they got in there and let the blood come out, they realized the lung was pretty scraped up, cut up. So they put staples in some parts of it, but they had to remove part of his lung because it was too badly damaged to just put staples in. So they removed part of his lung, and then he went, of course, back to the trauma ICU ward. It was touch and go for a long time. I'll insert a picture, I'll blur his face. And you can see, they have all these bottles hanging on things of all the stuff going into you. My gosh, he had just tubes everywhere. They had to put in 2 chest tubes because that inside in his lung continued to bleed, and they didn't want that chest cavity to fill back up again. So he had the 2 chest tubes and all the different IVs and the feeding tube up the nose and the ventilator, and it was just pitiful. It was so heartbreaking. It was such a tragedy that he really just got back on his feet a couple months ago from the cardiac arrest and being on life support in Pennsylvania. And he was back on his feet. He goes to the gym every day. He's very strong. He walks every day. He's in excellent health, but he is a type 1 diabetic. And now he's out. So they have kept him heavily sedated with fentanyl, propofol, and morphine for the pain. I guess broken ribs are very, very painful. With all that heavy medication, he's just been unconscious. They wanted him in like an induced coma because his body was in shock, as you could imagine. He has been in there now for 8 days. And I told you that he was in the trauma ICU. And yesterday they did a step down, which is great. That means it's not touch and go anymore. We don't have to take it hour by hour anymore. So now he's just in the regular ICU unit, not the trauma ICU unit. After the 3rd or maybe 4th day, they took him off the ventilator. That was so painful to watch because what they do is they dial the machine back that's forcing all the air down into your lungs from the ventilator, and then they want you to breathe on your own. And they had attempted it a couple times, and he couldn't breathe on his own. But this day, he did. But you have to do that for 2 hours, and you have to be awake. And when you're awake, when you wake up and they bring you out of that induced coma, you realize you have that big, thick ventilator tube down your throat and up your nose and just tubes everywhere. You have to deal with that and continue to breathe on your own for 2 hours straight. And if you don't make it the 2 hours, you stay on the ventilator. And it's a struggle, very much a struggle, and very, very difficult on the patient. Thank God he made it this time. He made it through the 2 hours, so they were able to remove the ventilator. He still has the feeding tube in because he can't swallow. From what they've told me, his throat is so swollen because of the ventilator that he can't pass the swallow test. So he has had no food, no water, nothing to drink. He can't even have one of those little sticks with a wet sponge on the end that you can kind of swab in their mouth and then they can chew down on it and maybe get a little squirt of water, because every time they do the swallow test to make sure that it's going down the right pipe instead of down into the lungs, he fails and he could aspirate and die. So they can't get him off the feeding tube yet. They've tried every day and it just doesn't work yet. Hopefully in the next couple days they'll be able to. But in the meantime, with that feeding tube that goes up your nose and down into your stomach, they're feeding him with, I don't know, some kind of liquid stuff that just goes through there that gives you some nutrients and things. He is extremely weak. He just can't move anything. I mean, he's been laying there for 8 days, and it's so sad. It's so very, very sad. He is now getting very agitated because he wants that tube out of his nose. And in the nighttime, he hasn't done this during the day, but in the nighttime, he pulls the tube out. And that's terrible. That's painful too, for them to have to feed it back down while he's awake to put it back in. He's pulled it out, I think, 4 or 5 times now. So now they have his arms restrained. He can't move his arms. They're strapped to the bed because they're afraid he's going to pull the tube out. He's not doing it on purpose, but under all the different medications he's on, he just doesn't understand that it's bad news if you try to rip that tube out. So we have been at the Savannah Memorial Hospital every day for the last 8 days and stay with him because, he has nobody here. He only knows me and Dave and Tristan. So he has one daughter, Mackenzie, and she works for the State Department, for the embassy, and she gets stationed overseas for 3 and 4 year long posts in other countries. Fortunately, she was in D.C., and the day this happened and I contacted her, she flew in the next day and then stayed till Sunday and then had to get back because they'll be leaving for their next post to Albania in about 3 weeks, I believe. Of course, Ken doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know what happened to him. He's scared to death. He's very confused, which is to be expected. They said there's something called ICU delirium, and it can happen to anybody. It's actually quite common. And when you're in ICU for any length of time, then this can happen to you. So he's confused. Sometimes he's very lucid, and sometimes he isn't. So their goal now is to try to get him off the feeding tube and get him to be able to swallow so that he can have some applesauce or a drink of water or something. He's so dry in the mouth that it's all crusty. It's so uncomfortable for him. His mouth is totally dry. He hasn't had any moisture in there for 8 days. And I know his mouth is in a lot of pain as well. We don't know the extent of the damage from hitting his head on the concrete street and the brain bleed. In the beginning, the brain bleed increased. It intensified. More blood was coming in, and that was a big concern too. But they take MRIs like every 4 hours in the first 3 to 4 days, and CAT scans and all that, to make sure it's not building up, and it hasn't increased since then. So that's a good thing. I mean, this man has been through so much. You know, losing his wife of 56 years and then ending up in a cardiac arrest and on life support 6 months ago. Well, a little longer than 6, maybe 8 months ago. And now getting hit by a car while he was on his golf cart. But I'm going to tell you, even though this is a terrible tragedy, just unthinkable, there are also miracles. And just the fact that he has made it so far, that he even got to leave the trauma ward and come to the regular ICU, is miraculous. It truly is. He is 79 years old. He'll be 80 in September. To go through that kind of trauma to your body with a head injury and shock and all the broken ribs and shoulder and damaged lung and have lung surgery and everything. It is such a miracle that he is still here. And I know, without a doubt in my mind, that he will pull through this. I don't question it for a minute. Hopefully within the next 2, 3, 4 days, he can get out of ICU and be moved to a regular room. Hopefully for just a couple days. And then he'll go to a rehab hospital. He's going to need a lot of rehab for speech, for the physical because of the broken ribs, to learn to walk again because he hasn't moved in 8 days, breathing therapy, many different intense therapies. But he'll do them because he's a strong-willed and determined person. I don't want this video to be too long, but there's something else I have to tell you. Oh my goodness. This hospital is huge. It's really big. And the ICU unit is located in the hospital. But the trauma ICU unit is located in a different wing of the hospital. And they have such tight security there. There's no stairs. Can you believe that? Have you ever been in any hospital or doctor's offices that might be 2, 3, 4 stories high, things like that, where you couldn't use the stairs, just the elevator? I feel like that has to be against the law. I don't know how that passes any kind of regulation, but that's the way it is. So they do have one stairwell, but it's all locked up, and the only way to get in it or out of it is for an employee there to take you down the stairs and exit you out the door. And then when you have to go back in, they have to come down the stairs, come outside, get you, and take you back up. And I can't do elevators. I mean, I can't even try no matter what's going on. I mean, this was serious injuries. And I couldn't use the elevator because I'm extremely claustrophobic. And I would have a panic attack so bad that I would end up in the ICU. So I had a big dilemma. So I called up to the trauma ICU ward and I said, I've got to get up there, because Ken was in there, but I cannot use the elevator. And I guess they haven't heard too many people say that. So they said they would get someone to come down and let me in. And a girl came down. She's my new sister, and her name is Ramona. She was such an angel. She was a miracle for me. She was a true godsend because she never minded, complained, act like it was a bother, anything to let me in and out. And you have to take breaks from those ICU trauma places because it's just so intense. And if I needed to go to the bathroom or wanted to go down in the lobby to get a drink, some coffee, get a breath of fresh air, every time I had to ask Ramona. She had to go up and down the stairs several times a day just to take me in and out. And she did it so willingly, so graciously. I can't tell you how thankful I am to her. And there were a few other girls on the floor that were super nice that I just love. And it was just a wonderful experience in that way. So Dave took a picture of me and my new sister in Christ, Ramona, and I filmed like a little 1 or 2 minute video clip with her, which I will insert now. This is my new friend, my new sister, Ramona. Ramona works in the trauma ICU unit here at Memorial Hospital in Savannah. And if it wasn't for her, I would never have gotten in to see my They do not have any stairs you can access. He's on the second floor, and I can't do elevators. It's impossible. So this sweet, loving, kind, generous girl would meet me outside. She has a path that she can get me in and out the door to the stairs. And she did it every day, several times a day. Anytime I needed to take a break, she would have to get up from her workload and escort me out and then come back and get me back in. She has been the biggest blessing from God. I don't know what I would have done because I worried every day about getting in to see Ken. And I just can't do elevators. So she is a godsend.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, she's wonderful. So I just wanted you all to meet Ramona, and I wanted you to know how much she has blessed me, how much she has done for me. I just love her dearly.
Thank you.
My new sister in Christ. This is her. And we're going to keep in touch.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
That's right.
As I said, Ramona truly is an angel. And I will be forever grateful to her because I was so anxious every day thinking, well, what if I can't get in? What if Ramona isn't available? Because she has a job to do. She works on that floor. But she waited for me. She would even check with me Do you need a break? Do you want me to take you down? The kindest person you would ever meet. So I just wanted to let you know why I didn't put up any videos last week. I'm also making a special request for prayers for Ken. He needs them. He truly does. So any prayers you can give and lift him up, they would be so appreciated. So as I said in the beginning, tragedies happen. They can happen to all of us in our lives. We never know when they're going to come or why they come. You know, you want to say, why did this happen? But you can't question why. So tragedies are out there, but so are miracles. And the miracles are big and they're plentiful. And I want you all to remember that no matter what you're going through, have faith. Put your trust in God and hang on to the miracles and recognize the miracles. Of course, it's a miracle that Ken is still alive. But some people might not notice that someone like Ramona is just as big of a miracle as that. That was a miracle to me. You know, I watch over Ken. He feels safe with me. I needed to be there, and I was stuck. I couldn't get in. So there are many miracles. So I will come back and make a video as soon as I can. I can't promise it will be, next week, because today's Saturday. Yeah, my days and everything are so mixed up. I'm so tired. So is Dave. We've been there every single day with Ken, and we will continue to be there with him until he gets out. But it throws your whole rhythm off. I don't know what day it is or anything. I have so much more to share with you, but I don't want this video to be too long. So I just wanted to let you know where I was, what happened, and when I come back and do an update, I can give you a little more information, or if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section, and then I'll do a video and answer the questions. Also, if you've noticed, I have a Band-Aid, a circular Band-Aid right here on my face. That's another story. We'll talk about that next time. I will continue to give you updates for sure once he makes it out of ICU and into a regular room. I will definitely let you know that too. Thank you for listening, and now I'm going to leave us all with an inside beauty tip. My inside beauty tip today comes from Romans 15:13. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that by the power of the Holy Spirit you may abound in hope. I'm sure many of you have been in situations throughout your life, some kind of crisis, some kind of tragedy, where you felt that there was no hope. You just felt completely hopeless. And I'm here to tell you, hope is what we have. Hope is what we have to hang on to. With this tragedy that happened to Ken, and with his age, gosh, it was really difficult to even think that he would make it. But I never gave up hope, and neither did Dave. We just believed with all of our hearts, and we claimed a healing for him. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen in everybody's situations because I'm not God. I don't know why some things happen to some people and then to others it doesn't. But I don't need to know why. I need to be strong, hold on to my faith, hope, believe, and just put it in God's hands. And you end up really finding hope in your heart, no matter how bad the situation is. Because you know no matter what, as long as God's will is done, that's all that matters. And if Ken hadn't made it, he would go on to eternity. So never give up hope, no matter how bleak a situation seems to you. Don't give up. Stay steadfast in prayer and just hold on and ask God to hold you up. Don't forget, His strength is perfect when our strength is gone. I thank you so much for being here and listening to me. I truly do appreciate it. And until we meet again, this is the old girl signing out. See ya.